Hello everybody and welcome to the United Stand. Manchester United have appointed a director of football and that is the breaking news. I thought I was going to be live for the press conference reaction, which is not for another hour or so, but this has come out from Manchester United in the last hour that they have appointed a director of football, or a football director, however you want to term it. A lot of people say Goldbridge is going to be really angry. You know, my initial reaction to this is not one of positivity, and I'll explain why in a moment. But to be fair, I think that we're going to have to wait and see what happens with this. The point remains that people will say that people will be excited about this without really knowing anything about it. I understand that. I think it's absolutely brilliant on any level that there is so much interest in our football club from our football fans, that this is something that people will be watching and reading about and excited about or intrigued about or have an opinion on, because there's not many football clubs out there that would be that intrinsically caring about their football club that an appointment of a football director or a director of football is big news. And it is big news. So I mean, I've heard some people saying, give them a chance, it's because they're not glamorous names. I don't think that is the issue here. I don't think that's the issue here. The issue is these people are just repackaged. It's like James Cooper's just said on Sky. It's evolution, not revolution. These people, John Murtagh, who's been appointed as the director of football, he's been at the club for 7 years. Darren Fletcher has come in recently, but he's a mate. It's a mate, isn't it? It's an ex-player at the club. And I think that people saying, oh, you know, people aren't giving them a chance because they're not glamorous names. Most director of footballers I would have gone for, people won't know their names of them because you don't know their names. I mean, Sura says that John Murtagh may be a close confidant of Ed Woodward, but look at what he did for Everton. I dug up a little bit and I'm excited about this. But mate, he's been at the club for 7 years. He's not been at Everton for a long, long time. This is what I'm saying. It's not... I say give them a chance. I think that the big club... I think the big dilemma for me is that we're going one of two ways. We're gonna be really successful, or we're gonna go like Arsenal over 10 years, where Arsenal became a football club that was just run into where it is now, mid-table matters. You know, it started off as a team that was a club that was challenging for titles, and then over the last 15 years has just deteriorated into a big club that gets nowhere near titles. Through bad appointments, through not making changes that needed to be made until it was too late. So, you know, the ball's in Manchester United's court. It's not in my court. It's not in your court as a fan. But I've got a few things I want to say about it. I really hope that John Murtagh, who is going to be the football director of football, Darren Fletcher is going to be the technical director. Matt Judge has now been called director of football negotiations, which I think is a huge concern, which we'll talk about in a bit. But for me, this is just repackaging. It's not actually much different because these people are already at the club. And if you're going back to John Murtagh's days at Everton, well, you're going back nearly a decade. Like, he's been at this football club for a very long time. And yes, his roles will change slightly. But it's going to be about how much responsibility these people get, because they can be as talented as you want them to be. They can be absolutely brilliant at the job. But if the people making the decisions and the people doing the negotiations are still the same people we've had for the last 8 years, then nothing ultimately will change. And I think what many of you have said over the years is your fear was that a director of football would just be people put up as puppets for Ed Woodward and co. Well, this is probably as close to that fear as you can get. Doesn't mean it will come true, but I mean, Mr. Murtagh is a close confidant of Ed Woodward and has been for years. Darren Fletcher is an ex-player with very little experience. I mean, are these not just like giving Rio Ferdinand the job or someone like that? Is the experience to do this job as a director of football there for Manchester United? Or is it just manoeuvring people around? I mean, basically, what it has done today, and what I have to admit it's done today, it's stopped any conversation about us needing a director of football. This is something that gets mentioned quite a lot by the live comments. We mention it quite regularly. We cannot talk about it anymore. I'm surprised the club's taken this long to do this, because they could have moved people around a long time ago. They've not brought somebody in. There's nobody coming into the club with new ideas. I mean, remember 2 weeks ago, we were talking about that guy from Juventus. Sounded very exciting. He's got a dossier on everything going on in Europe. He's been around loads of different clubs. Sounded very exciting. Nobody external's coming into this football club. These people have been here for years, apart from Darren Fletcher, who has been here for years as well. So everybody's saying that, oh, it's exciting. You're just saying it because it's not an exciting name. I can't even remember the name of the guy from Juventus from 2 weeks ago. So it's not about not having an exciting name. It's about the fact that it's just restructuring. It's like changing the name from Marathon to Snickers. It's just rebranding of the same thing that we've got. And that's the fear I have. It's just rebranding of people that have been at this club for a long time. And anybody who wants to use Murta's name or Matt Judge's name or anybody's name and say, well, they've got a great track record. They've been at the club for 7 years. These people have been here for 7 years. So to me, I'm intrigued to see how it's going to work, and I'm certainly going to give it the time. That's definitely what needs to happen. But if I was to sit here and say I'm excited, I'm not excited. I'm worried. That's probably what I am. So if you're excited, good. I wish I felt like that. I don't personally. I think the restructuring is interesting. Most football clubs would have a director of football or a sporting director who oversees everything. This is more sharing of the roles. You've now got a director of football negotiations in Matt Judge. You've got a technical director in Darren Fletcher. You've got a football director in Murta. You've got Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, still got very much a lot of control in it as well, and probably a load of other people as well. Nepotism at best, says Tabris. Our director of football announces just like our signings, as fans won't mind it, but are they of the level that we need, says Angie. Thank you for the super chat, Jacob. At least the position has been created. If he's not the guy, we can appoint someone who is more capable. Well, yellow bathing suit, that's what I was trying to say. It's not that simple, because Manchester United have sort of gone for a hybrid approach. This is not what everybody else does. The structure that we've got, we're sort of doing it in a very different way. You've got a football director, a technical director, a director of football negotiations. The manager is still involved, the scouting. It's a very... And I'm sure Ed Woodward's still involved as well. Honestly, Woodward has been so bad that any change at all to the decision-making structure is positive. But I don't know why people are saying Woodward's not involved. He's still the chief executive. People are acting like Ed Woodward's not involved, like he's been removed. Like people are celebrating on social media like Ed Woodward's been sacked. He's not. He's still part of that process. Like, what we've basically done is we've repackaged positions, we've appointed new people from within, and we just pull it. There's a big pool of people now. Sky saying we're in for a new keeper. When will we get our priority straight, says Rio. Well, I don't really talk about that at the moment. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how it works. On about director of football for years, we can't moan now, we have one, says Ben. I mean, I don't really know what to say to you, Ben. I mean, I've just literally just told you some things about it, and you're saying we can't moan. So if we get Titus Bramble out of retirement and buy him as a centre-back in the summer, do we just go, well, we wanted a centre-back? I mean, I don't really understand what you're on about there, Ben. There's levels, surely. There's got to be accountability. There's got to be opinion on everything. You can't just say, well, we've got one now. That's it. I mean, I think it's going to be very, very difficult to analyse this director of football at Manchester United anyway, because I don't think that he's not totally in control, is he? There's lots of different strands. I mean, ultimately, what I will say, I'm going to read you some quotes in a minute, but my overarching thing with this is that even if Murta and Fletcher and everybody else are brilliant at their job. I mean, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer could say to Murta, I want Varane. And they could all agree. And then they go to Matt Judge and say, we want Varane. Well, the director of football transfer negotiations is Matt Judge. Well, he's been doing that role for years. I was told that Man United wanted a couple of players that have gone to Dortmund that wanted to come to United, but we messed up the negotiations. Now, whether that's true or not, we know we messed up Jadon Sancho. So it doesn't really matter who the director of football, technical director, manager of Manchester United is. If they put forward the right players. Did we not put forward the right player last summer is what I'm trying to say. Jadon Sancho was the right player last summer. Ollie spoke to Jadon Sancho, apparently. Jadon Sancho was ready to come to United. So that was the right player last summer. We can't moan about the players that we're targeting all the time. I think Jadon Sancho was the right player. What happened? Matt Judge messed it up because he's the negotiator. And he's now got that role, director of football negotiations. So even if this process at United works, and it's a big if, even if it works, if the negotiations are still as bad as they have been, and what I'm talking about here is 80 million for Harry Maguire. It was never worth that. Not getting the Sancho deal done, not getting the Bellingham deal done, not getting the Haaland deal done. messing around for 6 weeks on a Wan-Bissaka deal, messing around for 4 weeks on a Bruno deal, and ultimately losing to Burnley because we didn't get him in early enough. The negotiations is always going to be a problem as well. But at least, I suppose, in a positive way, we know that role, Director of Football Negotiations, is now Matt Judge. I think there's always been a little bit, who is Matt Judge? Was he involved in it, or was it Woodwards? So I think that, maybe Ed Woodwards played a clever move here. Maybe he's sort of stepping back. He'll still be very much involved. I think to be fair, Ed Woodward is, people saying that Ed Woodward's not involved, he is basically the decision maker. I mean, if Ollie says Varane, if Murta says Varane, and Judge says, I'm going to negotiate for Varane, they've still got to get sign-off from Ed Woodward, because he's the chief executive and the Glazers are in charge. So I think people get lost. I think people are not understanding what's happening at Manchester United or how it runs. That Director of Football doesn't really have that much power. Ollie has a say, a veto, so to say, because the Director of Football can say, I want this player, but Ollie can say no, and that gets listened to. And the negotiator can mess it up. But over all that, you've got Ed Woodward and the Glazers. So in the example of how I see this works now, you've got Director of Football, Murta, Technical Director Fletcher, Solskjaer. They decide they want Varane. They tell Matt Judge to go and get Varane. All four of them have to say to Woodward, can we get Varane? Woodward asks the Glazers, can we get Varane? Yes, you can. Woodward maybe says, I don't want Varane, I want you to go and get Koulibaly. I don't know. But the sign-off comes from Woodward and the Glazers. And then, when all that's signed off, Matt Judge goes and does the negotiations. So it's still very, as I say, I think this football club's going one of two ways. I think it's going to improve massively, or it's going to head down the road of Arsenal for the next 10 years, where we're fighting for third, we're fighting for fourth, we're fighting for fifth, we're down to mid-table, and we just get further and further away. And I hope we're going to turn into something good. We have more of a transfer committee than Director of Football. Don't expect too much change personally. I don't expect there to be much change. I think what's really happened today, and I hope we're going to get proved wrong on this, but I think what's really happened today is that we've been silent. The fans have been silenced that we can't say we need a Director of Football anymore. Which the club should have just done this. I mean, if they were going to move people around within, why would they have not done this before? Because this shuts down Director of Football. We can't talk about a Director of Football anymore because they have basically done it from within. This is just to keep us quiet. Nothing will change, says SQ. And in a way, you might be right about this. Does this show assurance to Bruno in a way to make him sign a new contract? No. Why would it? Oh, Bruno, we've got a Director of Football. I'm signing up. I mean, that's not a centre defensive midfielder. That's not a centre back. Mark, how are you so certain about this way this structure will conduct business? I will reserve judgment until we have seen their work in the summer. Because it's all. Well, Gustav, okay. All right, okay. Manchester United is pleased. This is official. Manchester United is pleased to announce the promotion of John Murtaugh to football director and Darren Fletcher to technical director. Two new roles that will further strengthen the club's operation. John will have overall leadership and responsibility for operations and strategy across all football functions, reinforcing the strong foundations already in place. This appointment builds on the work John has already undertaken in recent years, working closely with Solskjaer and the rest of football staff to create the structures, processes and culture delivered sustained success on the pitch. This has included successful overhauls of the club's academy and recruitment department. Darren Fletcher will work closely with John to add technical input and discussion into direction into all football and performance areas. He will focus on a coordinated and long-term approach to player and squad development, helping maintain the integral link between the academy and the first team, aligned with Manchester United's values and culture. Well, look, I mean, what is Darren Fletcher's role? What is Darren Fletcher's experience? Because to me, this could work really, really well, but if I'm absolutely blunt, this is why Manchester United have failed over the last 8 years. Doesn't mean we're not going to succeed over the next 8 months, but over the last 8 years, which I can observe because the evidence is there, Manchester United have failed because they've recruited inexperience. They've relied on inexperience, and they've been inept and unproductive in rebuilding this football club after Sir Alex Ferguson retired on many different levels. A lot of these people have been here for that. So John Murtaugh's got 23 years experience in football and been at Man United for 7 years, most recently as head of football development. Prior to that, he was head of elite performance at the Premier League, following some senior academy and player development roles at other clubs. And obviously Darren Fletcher used to play for the club. As far as I'm aware, Matt Judge has been at the club for many years as well. So we are basically putting people into roles they've never done before, or moving people from roles that they have been doing for a number of years at this football club. So, of course, you've got to be skeptical. You've got to be concerned. You've got to be hopeful, and you've got to see results. But it's not the same as bringing somebody in from outside with loads of experience in doing this role. It's not the same as going out and getting the best people for the job. And what many people have said about Manchester United over the last few years, whether it's fitness coaches, whether it's bringing coaches in, there does seem to be a mates rate mentality within Manchester United. Whether it's, I think Woodward and Judge went to university together at Bristol, so students together. They're now in two of the most powerful jobs in football. Michael Carrick, Darren Fletcher, they've played with Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. McKenna from the youth setup. Murtaugh's been there for years. Phelan used to be here. So there's a lot of Manchester United's mentality, and I'm not saying it's a bad thing, seems to be to go with mates or things that people that know the football club, which is an interesting way to go about it, I think. I mean, what I would say about that is, it's basically going with the status quo, isn't it? And, one of the things we hear very regularly is that Darren Fletcher understands Manchester United. Michael Carrick understands Manchester United. Mike Phelan understands Manchester United. McKenna understands Manchester United because he's been training at the club. And I get all of that. I understand all of that. But why is that the way to go? Has anybody ever thought, why is that the way to... And this has only just dropped in my head here. I'm thinking on my feet. So we keep being told, we're bringing people in who used to play for the club or they've been at the club for years. And the thing that drops into my head, that just dropped into it there was, hold on a minute. We're using all these people who've been at the club for years. 8 years is nearly 9 years. 9 years is nearly a decade. What have we done in the last decade? What have we done in the last decade that makes you think, well, let's keep bringing people from within? Maybe top to bottom, like Gary Neville said 18 months ago, is the problem at the club. So recruiting people from within, maybe we're not succeeding because these people within are not good enough. And also, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, Michael Carrick and Darren Fletcher played in very good Manchester United sides 10, 15, 20 years ago. Football's moved on massively. I wasn't going to say the F word. I'm trying to think. When did Mourinho last win the Premier League? Was it 4 years ago? Only 4 or 5 years ago, Jose Mourinho won the Premier League. He's now done. I know Spurs are doing okay, but Mourinho used to be one of the best managers in the world. He's had to change. He's had to change his approach at Spurs. He's had to play a little bit more attacking. He's had to get Bale in the team. He's got to drop Eric Dyer. What Mourinho was doing at Spurs was getting him the sack. He's changed. But we are championing bringing people in who know United's identity from 10, 15, 20 years ago and expecting it to work now. It's a huge risk. It's a risk I hope it works, because there's nothing better than having people who know what the football club's about. Solskjaer being a successful manager is the dream because he's one of our most iconic players. Michael Carrick was one of our best midfielders for 10 years. Fletcher wasn't bad. You want those people to be successful, but are we going balls deep, hands all in on people who have the United DNA? But does the United DNA work in the modern football game? I suppose that's the thing I would say. Does all this in recruiting, jobs for the boys, mates rates, keeping it in-house, United DNA, and some of those words are not nice words, some of them are nice. What I'm trying to say is, where's the evidence that that's the way to go? Does that work in the modern game? Because I tell you what, there was a football club called Liverpool that used to rely on their boot room. And their boot room was basically recruiting from within. And it worked through the 70s, the 80s, and the 90s it fell apart. And then they had to rebuild again. So, United are absolutely... And I think this comes from the manager, to be fair. I think Solskjaer has done a lot of great work at that football club behind the scenes. Definitely has. I know for a fact he has. But the focus is very much on the United DNA. People who know the United way. People who know the club. Well, I know what critics are going to say. Well, if we're so obsessed with the United way and the United DNA, why don't we play anything like Man United? Why do we play this pretty pragmatic, closer to Van Gaal type of football than anything that is the United way? And that's the challenge, of course, on the pitch. We're talking off the pitch here. And the proof will be in the pudding. The proof will be in the pudding. We can't talk about a director of football anymore because we have done something. Do I expect change? I want to be proved wrong. I want to be proved wrong. I want to be positive. I want to be excited, but I'm not excited and I'm not positive. I'm sceptical, as always. I think the proof's in the pudding. I think Darren Fletcher's going to be very inexperienced in this role. That could be a good thing. You know, he could really work his arse off and become one of the best technical directors. Murtagh, given this opportunity, could become really good as well. Matt Judge, well, maybe this is a challenge for him now because everyone knows he negotiates the transfers. So maybe he's the one who's going to get a lot of the thing. It's going to be Judge out and not Woodward out. And maybe that's a clever move by Ed Woodward. But ultimately, the purse strings will be controlled by Ed Woodward and the Glazers. And that is not going to change, no matter who the director of football is. So I think it's going to be very interesting. What a pathetic media-friendly move, says Anchor. I think we just need to see. I think we just need to see what's going to happen. And what better time to see? This summer transfer window is huge. We were talking about it this morning. How do ex-players know the United way? We need the right director of football to buy and sell smartly. Matt Judge is still leading negotiations, says Anchor. And if we want people who know our club, why not get Van der Sar? Well, look, I think the core principles, the two things that stand out for me: one, there's a lot of inexperience in there. Two, actually, is it really change? Three, they have actually filled the position that many of us have wanted to fill for a long time. Is it the way I would have done it? No. Do I know everything? No. Do you know everything? No. Do we have any power in any of this? No. Is it what Solskjaer wants? Probably. Does it give identifiable roles to people within the football club, which makes it easier for us to pinpoint areas of issues? Yes. I would build the structure like this now. The Glazers are still in charge. They've got the money. Ed Woodward runs things day to day, so he gives the sign off on everything. Matt Judge will negotiate, and Murtagh, Fletcher, Carrick and his coaches will sort out the players they want to keep, what they want to sell, and that's how the club will work from now on. So, I mean, they are just giving people, in my opinion, they're giving people in the club different titles. I don't actually think there's going to be a lot of change, but the proof is in the pudding. Let's hopefully see a bit of change. And just to give you a few more quotes as well. Ed Woodward, Manchester United Chief Executive, says these are hugely important appointments that reinforce the progress we've been making as a club in recent years in our relentless pursuit of success. Progress reinforces the progress. I mean, Ed, what progress are you talking about, really? The progress we've seen in the club over the last few years has been on the pitch and on the pitch alone. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer has defied the odds. You delivered one of the worst transfer windows we've had. Many of us predicted we wouldn't get top four. We're sacked second in the league because the manager defied what the board delivered. Your role in that progress is nullified, I'm afraid. So don't start jumping on what Solskjaer has achieved when you didn't provide him what he needed. And that's what we're talking about today. We're talking about appointments of director of footballs, of transfer negotiations directors. We're talking about what gets delivered for the manager. We're not talking about on the pitch. What Solskjaer's delivered on the pitch has defied what the board delivered last summer. So to say that you're building on reinforcing your success, that is not really very fair. To try and claim some ownership of where United are in the league when we totally failed last summer. We've already made great... And we did totally fail last summer. Can I just say we did totally fail last summer? Because people will say, well, we got Telles. We never use him. Van der Beek, we never use him. Cavani, injured a lot. No right winger. No centre-back. And two youngsters, one of which is on loan and the other one hardly plays at the moment either. So last summer was one of the worst transfer windows we've ever had. So they're not getting success from me on that. That's totally on Ollie and his coaching staff. We've already made great stride forwards in the way we run our football operations, and the benefits are visible in the resurgent pipeline of academy talent reaching the first team and through our improved recruitment record. The resurgent pipeline of academy talent reaching the first team. Greenwood, Williams, Twansebi and Rashford have been playing for years. It's not a massive... I mean, there's a lot of talent there. It's not been used yet. John has been integral to our progress in these areas, and his deep understanding of development ensures the club's traditions of bringing young players through from academy to first team will continue. This new position is a natural evolution that harnesses his leadership and qualities and his years of experience in the game. I'll tell you what I take from that may not happen. There's a lot of talk about bringing youth through. Youth. I mean, is this not another money-saving exercise just to keep promoting youth. And the great thing about youth is that it takes time to become experienced. So how does the team benefit if it hasn't got experienced players who are good enough? We need to buy players. Darren's stellar achievements as a player and his own journey from academy to Premier League and Champions League winner means he naturally commands respect and understands this vital part of the club's DNA, youth again. In this new role, the first in our history, he will deliver technical advice across all aspects of the football department, as well as contributing to the communication and delivery of our football philosophy across all areas of the club. I'm delighted that John and Darren have accepted these roles, and I look forward to the contribution they will make together with Ollie and the rest of the staff as we build towards future success. John Murtaugh said, "This is such an exciting time for everyone at Manchester United, with the first team, academy and women's team all performing strongly and plenty of development still to come. It's a privilege to be part of that process and an honour to lead Manchester United's football department, working alongside Ollie, Casey and so many other truly outstanding staff, and all dedicated to delivering success to this club." Darren Fletcher said, "It is great to be back with the club and I'm delighted to be taking on this new role. We are moving in the right direction and I'm looking forward to continuing to work with Ollie and his coaching team, and now with John as the football director, to help bring young players through and further develop the football side of the club. It's fantastic to see that all staff here driving from Manchester United towards a new every season." I mean, that's dubious, isn't it? That is dubious. When you read that, you don't get anything about signings or recruitment. It's all about bringing youth through. I look forward to working with John to bring youth through, developing youth. Woodward talking about youth. It's all about the youth. I mean, I would have liked a few statements about bringing in top quality players to build the great squad that we've already got alongside the youth, but it's all about the youth. And somebody said this to me a few weeks ago. I mean, I don't know how reliable it is, but somebody said to me a few weeks ago that United's strategy is to bring through as many young players as they can so that they can sell them for good fees and make money. I mean, look, I don't know whether that's true or not. I think United will be active in the transfer market. I do. I don't think we're going to suddenly stop signing players. But the thing that worries me about the youth is whether it's Charlie McNeil in the under-18s, Hugel and Shoretire and Hannibal and all these great players all these great young talents that we've got. They're not going to be first team ready for years and years and years. Even if Shoretire starts playing tomorrow night, he's going to be 3 years. I mean, look at Xhaka at Arsenal. 18 months ago, I saw him play against Manchester United at Old Trafford, and I thought he's an exciting player. 18 months later, he's still not the finished article by any means. He's still very young. Young players are a long-term commitment. They don't win you trophies on their own. You've got to have Brunos and Pogbas and, top-class centre-backs and a top-class CDM to help them. I mean, I look at the class of 92, Schmeichel, Bruce, Keane, Cantona, Dennis Irwin. Lots of experienced, top-quality players with them as well. So it's going to be very interesting to see how this goes. And Vin says, let's just say this removes Woodward off multitasking and transfer interference. Well, Ed Woodward will still have the final say on transfers because he's the guy in charge of the football club. He's the chief executive. So anybody who thinks that this moves Ed Woodward out of it, what it does is it takes Ed Woodward away from decision making, but it doesn't take Ed Woodward away from it at all. Ed Woodward will still very much be involved in what's going on at this football club. So I wouldn't say that's going to happen at all. Not at all. But I think that, am I excited? No. Am I angry? No. I feel the same as I did this morning before we didn't have a director. I mean, that's where I am. I think my initial tweets, I was a bit pissed off because I was like, this is just repackaging, internal, inexperience, same people involved. I mean, at the end of the day, I would rather have the only change that's going to help our transfer strategy is the club actually spending money, isn't it? And having good, competent people in that football club, which I still don't think that we have. But do I feel angry about it? No. Do I feel excited about it? No. What I do feel is that it could well just be the same old story. It could just be the same old story that we're used to, whereby there isn't actually that much change at all, and that the same thing will keep on happening because ultimately they are the same people, aren't they? These people are not new. I think that when people say, oh, it's not fashionable names, as I said, it's got nothing to do with fashionable names. There's probably 30 brilliant director of footballs that we could have brought in. I don't even know their bloody name. So it's not about that. It's about track record. It's about proven experience, and it's about new ideas. And I think Manchester United needed somebody to come in as a director of football with a proven track record across Europe, who has proven scouting networks, proven success, and a proven plan. This plan that United have gone with is inexperience, unknown, and already at the club. Doesn't mean it's not going to work, but I don't, as James Cooper said on Sky, this is not revolution, it's evolution. And evolution is just, changing what's already happened before. Revolution is changing everything, and I don't think we've done that. But the most exciting thing I would say is that the proof of the pudding is going to be in the summer. We've now structured our recruitment department 3 months before the transfer window opens. If we'd done it in August, after the transfer window, well, that's too late. So we've done it 3 months before the transfer window opens. We know who the director of football negotiations is. It's Matt Judge. We know who the football director is. It's John Murtagh. We know that Fletcher is the technical director. We know that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is the manager. And we know that Ed Woodwards, the man who signs it all off. So we know the structure of this football club for the first time in a long time. And that is a positive. We do actually have structure within the football club, which Mourinho was crying out for when he was in charge. So we've got that. The question is, are you confident we've got the right people in the roles to do it? Because if you had a really good director of football negotiations, a really good director of football, a really good technical director, a really good coach, and a really ambitious chief executive, well, there's nothing wrong with that structure. But like anything, you can have roles, you can have the best roles, but you can have the worst people in the roles. And I still think there's a few weak links in there. And unfortunately, there's a couple of links that we just don't know about. We're just going to have to give them the benefit of the doubt and see. But yeah, I would agree that it is just repackaging of what we've already got. It's definitely United's way to recruit from within. Go with the United DNA. That's the way that we're going. And all I would say about that, as a skeptic to that, all I would say is, why are we obsessed with the United way? We don't play the United way. And a lot of the people who know the United way, the last 8 years have not been very good. So what do we learn from the last 8 years that we need now? And if you're going back 10, 15, 20 years, is that relevant in the modern day? It's a risk. It's a risk. And as I said, I think we're either going to go the way of Arsenal, or we're going to turn ourselves into, hopefully, a rival to Manchester City and Liverpool in the modern game. That's what I want to happen with these changes. My fear is that we could be heading the way of Arsenal, where it's like, we're just going to do it our way, we just want top four, and we're gradually going to drop and drop. But the words are there: continued success, growth, development, progress. So we'll have to see. I worry that Gerard says, I worry that if this particular setup with them, Fletcher and Murtagh, doesn't work, will it be I told you so from the Glazers and Woodward takes back the reins? Woodward hasn't given up the reins. I don't know why people think Ed Woodward's given up the reins. He runs that football club. Ollie can't say sell Anthony Martial without Ed Woodward saying yes. And Ole Gunnar Solskjaer can't say get Varane without Ed Woodward saying yes. I don't know why people think Ed Woodward is not involved anymore. He runs the football club. He's the chief executive. He's the man who speaks to the Glazers. He's in charge. Like, if I'm in charge of a bank, just because I appoint people to be a cashier manager and, count the money manager, whatever, I'm in charge. They don't get to go and do stuff without me saying it. So all this talk about Ed Woodward not being in charge, I don't know what you're talking about. Maybe small step in the right direction. Bayern has ex-legends, says AKA. Well, look, hopefully yes. Hopefully yes. I'm sceptical. I am sceptical, but that's because of the last 8 years. I hold my hands up and say that. I'm not going to be one of these people on Twitter who are going, oh, well, I'm excited. I'm going to be excited. Yeah. Well, you go for that. You go for it. You go for it, girl. You go for it, boy. That's up to you. I'm not going to do that because I think there's 8 years of failure and incompetence. And a lot of these people are still in roles. So I'm going to be sceptical. But there's always second chances. There is always opportunities. And as I said, the summer window will be the summer window that they can prove they're right. And I hope in August, when the window closes, I'm sat there going, you know what? That's probably the best transfer window we've had in years. That's what I want to happen. I don't think it's going to happen. I hope it's going to happen. But no, how do I feel about it? I'm not excited. I'm not depressed. I feel the same as I did this morning, because ultimately, I think Manchester United Football Club is the same as it was this morning. Despite these appointments, I don't think there's much change. I think it's just people moved into new roles, which you get in business. If you've ever worked in business, this is what businesses do. When they want to make a change, but they don't want to make a change, they just rebrand, they restructure. You move people around, but just give them a new role name. And I think that that's what's happened, unless we get proven wrong. Anyway, Ollie's going to do his press conference in 7 minutes, and I'm back live again in half an hour for the press conference. So thanks everyone for watching. Smash a like on the video, and I will be back live with you very, very shortly for Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's press conference. And get your comments in below on what you think, and subscribe bottom right-hand corner. Thanks for watching. If anything, it's interesting. It's all about who you know and what you know, says George Kyle. And Stephen Williams says, "Come on, Mark, open your mind and embrace change." Mate, my mind's wide, my brain's wide open. That's why I can see it. But you think what you want to think. Think what you want to think. It's your opinion. That's what this channel's always about. If you're happy and excited, go for it. If you're skeptical, like me, go for it. If you think this is the worst thing that's ever happened, go for it. This is what it's about. It's just, you know, I want to be proved wrong. I want to be proved wrong by the board. The challenge is there for them to do it. And I'll tell you what, if I was Matt Judge, I would be absolutely focused, because there's nowhere to hide for Matt Judge. You are the director of football negotiations. We know you messed up the Sancho deal last summer. You are the one people are going to look at, because you're the one who gets it over the line. You're the striker. You know, everyone else is just building it up. Ollie, Murtaugh, Fletcher. They're just the assisters. You're the striker. You've got to, if you miss the chance, everyone knows you've missed it. So Matt Judge has got to get these deals over the line now. And I suppose that's the most positive thing, is that is very distinct. Anyway, I will see you in half an hour for the press conference reaction. Let's see what Ollie's got to say about injuries and everything else. Thanks for watching. Speak to you in a bit.